Hello, everyone. This is Sarah Kennedy with Colorado Hands and Voices. In this strange time of COVID-19, our early intervention folks are having to produce a lot of services online throughout the state. Some community center boards are giving therapists the choice about online or in-person visits, and some have moved entirely to online, and we have a feeling it'll move more that direction. So we wanted to produce a little resource for families. It looks like today we have more providers online, so this may shift a little bit, but that's okay. We are nothing but flexible in this day and age. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. And here we go. So again, the topic is early intervention goes online. And this is all about, of course, social distancing required by the pandemic, coronavirus or COVID-19. We don't know how long this will last. Again, some community center boards are still allowing for in-person visits, and some have moved entirely to online. And for parents, if you're not sure what a community center board is, it is that local nonprofit in your county or your group of counties that provides services, particularly for our families, birth to 3, for kids who are deaf or hard of hearing, for babies and toddlers. And while change is never comfortable, we think parents and providers really can make this work. And there's actually some benefits to online teleintervention. So a little tip, we're all pretty anxious about what's going on in terms of our own family's economics or health, or the concerns about not being able to see grandparents. And we do know that taking a moment to settle and find something to be grateful about can change the setting for any current anxieties you might have. The brain actually can't feel anxious and fearful at the same time you're trying to find something to be grateful about. So that's my little tip. It seems odd to have an in-service when everything is so up for grabs, but this is one little thing we can control. So that's my thought there. So what are some of the concerns we hear from families, and what are some of the benefits about teleintervention? Well, it's great that this is an option to continue therapy for our babies and toddlers. The whole point of early intervention is try to close any gaps before they begin so that kids are ready to go to preschool and or reach kindergarten age without significant gaps that used to be present before we had early hearing screening and intervention. And also it facilitates a true coaching model where families have to be the hands-on therapist, if you will, for that moment in time with an early interventionist. The provider can't come, the CHIP provider can't come and kind of take over the session. They have to use their coaching skills. So I think that is a benefit. Of course, we're all concerned about wonky Wi-Fi access, for lack of a better word. And I know Jennifer's here from the Western Slope where that might impact her families even more often than others. But we have just heard from Comcast that there is free internet service available for the next 60 days at least, with higher speeds possible. So if some of your families struggle with their current service, that might be an option to consider. I think too, we have to realize no one's a real expert at this. Some of us in the state have been doing teleintervention for quite a while. So Nan Thompson in particular is one ABT who's done a lot of this just by the nature of her work. So she's a great resource. Otherwise, we're all learning to do this better. And will it be enough? That's always a worry. Will this kind of intervention be enough to close the gap? We hope that it won't have to go on for a long time, but I think some of these things that I'll pass on will make it better than it would have been before. And yes, it does take a little more preparation. Families need to be reminded of what things they should have ready. toys to play with, activities to do, a little more preparation on their part than they had to do before when you just knocked on the door. Anything else from the group that you would like to share as a worry or as an unexpected benefit if you've already dipped your toe in this water? Which means you have to unmute if you're going to chat.
I've been seeing this kind of going this way just with the population we serve and where they are, and like some things that are happening at my CCD. I was going to have to do more telehealth in order to actually see the kids so that I wouldn't have to worry about drive time. So I think it's a good opportunity for us to practice, kind of forced practice, but we get to practice.
Yeah, a little forced practice. Right. Right. And for our rural families, this is the reality in some ways. And I think the benefit is that we'll all get better at it. Okay, great. So families do need to be instructed in how to use Zoom, which is the #1 platform and the platform that we're on today. So the fact that you all joined, awesome. That's half the victory. And you can help your families become familiar with this through changing the speaker view or the gallery view. Sometimes it pops up in a different way, and you can encourage families to play with that a little bit. Other folks can join in, so that's a benefit where it's not as easy to get another person to join your visit at a home. You can invite a physical therapist, say, or another kind of interventionist to join your meeting for a little bit or for the whole time. So that's where that view might come in handy. You can encourage families to play with changing their name on the view window. You just click on the 3 dots and the choices come up to change or edit your name there. You can play with the volume controls when you first start the visit. Sometimes people don't realize they're on full blast or they're on mute until you begin talking, so good to have that in mind. And of course, playing with the lighting in the room. It's good to have good general light. I know my light is not ideal where I have my computer, so but it makes for a good example to show you what a difference light makes. The chat window, I don't expect you would use often unless you had another person joining in, and then you can chat between the whole group or just between one other person. So that's another option. It's a good idea to turn off all other applications in the house if possible. So I had to warn my people who are unexpectedly home, like, I need this for this next hour. And that really does help cut down on that video freeze that sometimes happens, and it's going to happen. So you might as well have a sense of humor about it. Also, Renee's showing that wearing headphones is helpful. If you have background noise, that takes care of that issue, and you don't have to be shushing people. And same with families. Mom or dad could wear headphones and just be able to hear you, and they wouldn't have to be watching their own monitor, because really they're there to play with the kids, and you're there to be that coach Jiminy Cricket in their ear, right? Also, just to make sure power cords are on, and because you could lose power during a Zoom call, and that's never good. A little prep goes a long way. So part of a telehealth session could be planning for your next session. So you could think about, can we get a computer in the kitchen or in the bathroom to do bathing, or whatever it is that's coming up next in the family routines. Having those requested toys and materials ready, and also removing anything that might be distracting to a child. Now, of course, siblings, you can't really remove. So you like always, you got to work with those siblings. Muting phones that might interrupt, maybe a sign on the door if a family has high traffic. I seem to be the Amazon delivery point for the whole neighborhood because I'm often home and they all know it. Like, oh, deliver here. turn off TVs, etc. But if a family doesn't turn off that extra noise, that's a good teaching moment to say, if I'm having trouble hearing, your child with hearing loss probably is having trouble discerning what's going on in the environment. So that's a good way to say that. Encouraging families to try to change diapers, bathroom, feeding before the visit as much as possible. But we know it's real life and things are going to happen. Anything else folks might want to share that I didn't have listed here? Okay, moving on. We thought it might be helpful for parents to see an idea of what might happen at a typical visit. So obviously a first visit might be a lot more about getting used to the equipment. But as you get more comfortable, a routine might be, talking about any news for the week, any checklists or homework that families have had, things that parents are noticing in their child, and then doing that Ling sound check. And you get to watch the parents do it. So they're really learning how to check for those Ling sounds and the plus sounds if you've added those. And you're explaining that you're checking both for hearing aid or equipment function and that there hasn't been a change in hearing acuity, which is a huge comfort for families who may not be able to get into the audiologist. And we're hearing that audiology appointments may be quite curtailed in this period because anything that's considered sort of elective or not related to immediate health concerns, it might be closing. My dentist office closed yesterday, for example. And that maybe the next thing would be a familiar song. Maybe you'd create a routine where you have a song bucket with a couple of items that would represent actions or gestures and motions. Sing the song together and help identify items and actions as you sing. Some kind of vocabulary activity, introduction, a favorite game or something that the child's really interested in these days that you can adapt to your language development needs. Highlighting any kind of daily routine that you might not have done yet. So we're changing diapers, we're cleaning hands and face after lunch, whatever it is you're doing, that you can create some give and take, turn taking and language development with that. I think reading a book is a very common activity that's done in early intervention. So that might be something to share with families that this would be part of our regular routine. And then the most important thing might be that session review. What went well? What do we want to plan to do next time? What kinds of props might we need? And what homework is going to happen for the week? And I know you all are very realistic about what homework's possible in this kind of situation. So trying to stick with routines is good. Stuff is going to occur. So that's a typical session, and this was very similar to what the Listen Foundation proposes. Sound Beginnings in Carolina, very similar. If you would have something else you would like to have included, I can include that in the next session, so let me know. So next, what else might be helpful? I think at this time, considering a LENA assessment might be really eye-opening. If you haven't done a LENA in a while, it might show in the different circumstances that families are experiencing what's happening now for that child. What kind of access do they have to turn taking, to periods in noise, to periods of distant speech? It might be surprising to families, and it gives you one more window into the home that you don't have right now. So the LENA is still available. You still get them through either the Cohere, the Listen Foundation, and if those people don't have one, Dinah Beam still has a stash, and she will through next June 2021. when that contract ends. We don't know what's going to happen after that. I hope that the new HRSA grantee will consider that, or the Cohere program, because I think it's been a really valuable assessment. Again, you could go visit with other professionals. We talked a bit about headphones. A tip that Nan Thompson shared is turning off the therapist's video if it's distracting to the child, because the parent really doesn't have to see you. Now, if you have a deaf or hard of hearing parent, that's a different matter. And then just plan on real life happenings. So you're sharing your phone number with the families. If the connection freezes or is lost, then you both know how to get back on. And yeah, sense of humor is important. What kind of funny position can my video freeze in today? Is it going to happen? And then lastly, and then we'll talk with any specific questions you guys have. Nobody likes change. This is a little 5-year-old I know that had a fit in the parking lot, and his mom just kind of waited it out. we don't like change, but we can do it together, and we're here to help as much as we can. We're still running our work as usual. We've got a large Facebook group community, and I don't know if you knew we had one for unilateral hearing loss, and just started one with deaf plus autism here in Colorado. And then nationally, we've got a deaf hard of hearing plus group that's really active. So that might be another option. And our parent guides are still working hard. We're coming out with a resource list just about the coronavirus and online supports pretty soon here this week. It might be done as early as tomorrow. We're all concerned to see that Pueblo has canceled school in person the rest of the school year, and kind of expect that other school districts may fall in line. So there'll be even a little more chaos as you are seeing families for their home visits. And we all start to realize, oh, this is going to be longer than we thought. But with that, I'm going to stop sharing and open this up for questions. There we go. So that was a quick overview for families. And since we have mostly providers on the line, let's talk about any questions you guys have. And I'm going to turn off the recording for now.